Published in 1472 by Dante Alighieri, the Divine Comedy is an epic poem documenting the author's journey through hell to the purgatory and then on to heaven. Dante, led on by Virgil, author of the Aeneid, he creates a complex structure of hell, known as Dante's Circle. Each circle is dedicated to a sin, and the punishments are dependent on the gravity of the sin, on the person, and also low-key on how much Dante disliked them.
Hi everyone, welcome back. It's been a while since I last did some serious content. Did to make some other videos. For a start, last week my friends came over and we watched the Grishaverse adaptation, aka Shadow and Bone, together. Sometime before that, I made a video where I was reading like Anna Taylor-Joy, cannibalism, Tumblr poetry, all of that. Anyway, I think we've all heard of Dante in some way or another. He was not only an author, he was a political thinker, a literary theorist, a philosopher thinking about what's right and what's wrong. Yeah, he did a lot during his short but impactful 56 years on Earth. More could be said about him, of course. He was also a member of the Guelph Party, exiled from his favorite city of all, Florence, and of course the creator of this very warm and welcoming phrase, "All hope abandon, ye who enter here."
Yeah, so welcoming. Anyway, here I have the Barnes & Noble's edition, printed by Sterling Publishing Co. and translated by Henry Wordsworth Longfellow. It includes all the drawings that were made by the great Sandro Botticelli. The pages are high quality. I can't recommend the edition enough, but the most important part, the translation,
it lacked a little for me. The language was beautiful, but that was because the words themselves were beautiful. But that's not the translator's fault. Like outlined in the intro of the book, because of Dante's unique rhyming and the particularities of the Italian language, it was quite hard for English translators to really get the feel of the poetry across, and they were forced to go off the rhyme, and yeah, it's a mess. I also visited World of Dante, one of the websites that I'm going to be mentioning in my resources part, and I read their translation as well. And of course the meaning is there, but the feel is off, just like in the Longfellow translation. And I definitely did some cross-reading, you know, a little bit of Longfellow, a little bit of World of Dante. It was quite nice. The poem is hard. I definitely underestimated just how difficult it would be, because it's not only the story of Dante's journey through the afterlife, it's also like Italian politics, some contemporary history of the time, theology, classical literature. Basically what I'm trying to say is, do not do what I did and go into this completely unprepared, because it will not work. You know who's lucky? Me, for having the internet and being able to Google stuff that I didn't understand. And you know who's absolutely stupid for not thinking about this in advance? Also me, because I was like, oh, you know what? I can do this, people read it, I can read it too. Am I not a reader, you know? Yeah, sure, I'll need some help from Google. I did not understand just how much help I was going to be needing from Google. Don't do what I did, moral of the story. That shade at myself needed to be thrown, which is why I'm making this video. Not only is this an introduction to the beautiful book we have here, but also just to like some resources that you can use that I ended up using. I have a special one for Russian peeps too, because you guys, I value you, and I'm so sorry that my subtitles have been late for like the past like 3 months. Over the course of this video, I have shared some information that I had questions in regards to when I started reading. If you have any further questions, please do leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to reply. But then there's of course the fact that I know nothing about like Italian politics during the time of Dante, except like the basics that I needed to know to read this book. Almost literally nothing about theology, but I will try my best to reply. Can we see the problem with my ignorance and reading this book? Yes, we can see the problem. It is exactly why in this video I am not analyzing the book, even though I do have rather extensive notes on my phone which are taking up my storage. I really want to take the time that I would usually use to make my videos in my read and discuss with me segment and just, you know, actually like read more about the book and try to find out more. What I really want right now is to get like an edition that has Italian on one side and English on the other side, because I really want to see the Terza Rima. So if you have any recommends, please do leave it to me. Also, this is so crinkly, can you hear it? I gave this work 3 stars. And you know what? This is one of those books that if I were in a relationship with this book, And if I were to break up, throwback to when I actually did that with Dead Soul, special thanks to Vlad who actually helped me out on that one. Anyway, if we were breaking up, it would totally be me, not the book. It was fascinating to see Dante's idea of the structure of hell and kind of how each punishment fit the sin and which sin he thought was like the gravest. That's the happiest I've ever been talking about sin. But just, you know what really lacked for me were the conversations, because actually the conversations were super interesting and I wanted to go more in depth into them, but then like bam, Virgil's like, hey, we do this, and then we see another footage, what is this, a video? Yeah, actually it is, but suddenly we see another poor soul shape-shifting into a reptilian. Yeah, a little bit more conversation, a little bit less, I'm gonna avoid being mean here, revenge. Okay, truth is, I couldn't fully appreciate the allegories to all of the mythology. I definitely got a couple references. I'm pretty sure that I missed thousands of them. I don't have like the full scope of Greek mythology in my mind. That would need some studying too. But what I wanted to say is the reason that I gave this book 3 stars is I didn't lower the rating because of my ignorance. I'm not even gonna get started on the issues of me doing that. That's like a different topic. Like, I had other dislikes which were part of the reason why I lowered the rating for this book, so let's instead summarize those real quick. Okay, for a start, I really didn't like the painting of other religions as evil. Yes, I get that it's Christian oriented. Yes, I get that it's a different time, but it was just like extremely unpleasant to read, that kind of part of it. And the second reason is this whole like blaming people for not worshiping Christ because they weren't born yet. Some context. So Virgil was born like before the age of Christ, but not like ages before. It's just that the Romans, he was a Roman, the Romans became Christian under Constantine, I'm pretty sure, after Virgil died. So although he was there, he didn't have the chance to engage in that worshipping. And for me, what was so strange was Dante being like, oh, you know, like Virgil, he's such a father figure to me. I really appreciate his work. He's such a role model. And then being like, psych, you go to hell. You go to hell because you don't worship Christ. Okay, I think I'm walking a fine line here in this specific part of the video because it looks like I don't have a problem with the book specifically, but some of the kind of beliefs it holds in terms of Christianity, and especially like concerning people who take their own life by their own hand, let's phrase it like that. So I know that many Christians disagree on like whether it's a sin or not. I don't know who I am. I was Christian as Orthodox, but I'm still figuring it out. I don't want to interfere with Christians' belief. I'll let Christians be the voice for that because, you know, own voices, it's better than me discussing this right now in the context of this review, although I would like to come back to this eventually. We'll make another video sometime soon. It's just that for me, it made me really angry to see Dante blaming people who took their own life. And yeah, I know I'm a contemporary reader, so it is hard for me to identify and relate to his beliefs. I don't need to do that, but just this part exactly made me really very angry. And I know it was irrational because like that's just how it was at the time. But again, that's not the main reason I don't like this book. It was just a combination of so many little factors. And if I had to boil it down to something, I'm gonna say it's the fault of my expectations, as usual. So, you know, it's the one classic that everyone really wants to read. Everyone pretends they've read it. Everyone knows what you're talking about. Well, if you're into classics, pretentious literature, what? It is a really curious work, and it makes sense that people talk about it. And I was like, so many people love it. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be like one of the best classics ever. It's gonna be a contemporary novel. It's gonna read like it was written today. And no, it just fell flat. And you know what? Yes, it is my own fault for raising it up there, for not knowing Italian politics of the time, for not researching them beforehand and researching them while I was reading. Honestly, there's just so many things. And yes, of course, the fact that I found it really hard to distance it from my own kind of perspective of not blaming people for certain sins, and from Dante's. I also found Dante's works to be quite judgmental, like a lot of the contemporaries of his time he put into hell, and I'm guessing that's the shock factor that played a role in his audience at the time. But I don't know them. For personally be like, wow, like why did he put them in hell, or why do they get to go to heaven, you know? After I raised it up, Icarus's fall from grace came hard, if you know what I mean. But again, it's me, so yeah, if you're gonna comment it is your fault, I'm gonna absolutely agree that it is my fault for not liking this book. What I do want to say is I want to recommend it to everyone here. It has like a solid 10 minutes just kind of criticizing it and saying what exactly I don't like about it, but it's good for general education, so I implore all of you to read it. So this is obviously a book that can't just be read once. It's completely your choice, but in between rereads of serious works, I prefer to kind of have space and have time. So it will be some time before I pick up my next translation of Inferno, and even more time before I pick up, well, Paradiso and Purgatorio, also here in this beautiful collection. Can you see the golden light? What I can do is I want to give you a list of websites and resources to make your reading experience just a little bit better than mine, because yes, again, I recommend this book. So let's talk about those. Thank you so much to everyone for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week. Bye!